Empathic, emotional, self-care, self-care. Oh yeah. So, what is that, right? So most people are familiar with self-care, but what's empathic emotional self-care? Well, let's find out, shall we? I'm welcome to Women's Self-Mastery. I'm Deb Pearson. Today's progression video is about empathic emotional self-care. Oh yeah. It doesn't really say that, but that's okay. I It's so important to how we feel emotionally. I just wanted to bring it up and make sure people know about it. So today we're going to talk about three things. How does empathic emotional self-care, any kind of emotional self-care impact your life? How does it fit in? Um, how can we change the way we think about ourselves, and how do we change the way we treat ourselves? So think about ourselves and treat ourselves. So what do you suppose, or why do you suppose it is so challenging for especially women to care for ourselves emotionally? Have you really thought about that? Because it's an issue. Like I would say 95% of my clients, well, first of all, are female, but 95% of them are also challenged with how they feel about themselves. And I had one client say to me that she wished that she could give herself all the love and affection and patience and kindness and compassion that she'd been given to other people for decades. It was like, oh, that's so beautiful. But it's also a little alarming. Like, why is it that we don't give that to ourselves? Why are we so challenged with that? So, of course, I figured out what I think the answer is, but it's a really great question for you to ask yourself. Why is it so hard for us women to give that to ourselves? So, um, I think I'll let you guys sit with that. I'm sure you know the answers, but I'm gonna leave that go. And if you need to know, of course, ask me. I'm happy to tell you all that stuff. But anyway, so let's get back to what I'm talking about. So to take care of your own emotional needs are like a big deal. We're not taught how to do that, not at home for most of us, not in the workplace, not at school, pretty much nowhere. We're as women expected to take care of everything and everybody else. And then maybe if there's time at the end of the evening, you could take care of yourself. So, hi everybody. I see there's some people coming on. So if you are here live, please put hashtag live. If you're watching the replay, put hashtag replay. So one of the things I want to do is to tell a little story about a client I have named, not her real name, Wanda, and Carlos, not the husband's real name. It was a really interesting situation. So Wanda, she'd been married 3 times, divorced 3 times. So this was her fourth husband, but he was a very giving man. So it was a challenge for him, but he would give a lot of himself. And Wanda had a sense that if she asked him to do something and he didn't do it, he didn't love her anymore. Yes, that's a challenging thing, but I think that there's more of us out there doing that than we would want to believe. So anyway, it was their anniversary. Carlos had planned this amazing day for Wanda. It was a spa day, and he dropped her off and picked her up and blah, 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 supper, dinner, wining, dining, the whole bit. And so he knew how she was. So he thought, I'll continue it the next day, just a little longer, just make her feel really special. When she got up, he was like, what you doing today, babe? And she's like, hey, Casey, how's it going? Oh, good. Thank you. Glad to hear about this topic and progression video. Okay, cool. So anyway, so he asked her what she was doing, and she's like, I'm just going shopping and doing some things. He said, okay, when you come home, I'll have supper for you tonight. And she was like, oh, great. So not only did he have supper ready for her, he also had made the bathroom really nice. He knows she likes to take soaks. So he put some music in there and did some rose petals, champagne. I don't know what else he did, but he did all these things to make it really wonderful for her. She got home, they ate supper. He brought her upstairs, like, here, made this bath for you. And gave her a little kiss on the head, gave her drink, and he left the room. And After a little bit, Wanda's like, man, the water is getting cold. And so she called for him and she called for him and she called for him and he didn't answer. She started getting really, really angry and she couldn't understand why he wasn't coming up to help her. And so she got to the point after about 4 or 5 times of yelling for him, she put her robe on and went downstairs and he was sitting at the table and she like lambasted him. She called him every name in the book. Why are you doing this? We just had the best 2 days ever. And now you're treating me like this. What is wrong with you? And he's just there with a stunned look on his face, doesn't say very much. Anyway, a few days later, she and I have a conversation and we talk about it. I'm asking her, what's going on? And why does she need him to come up to turn the bathwater on for her? And she said, of course, that it's because that's how I know he loves me, that he does things for me. And we really had to go through Wanda understanding that depending on another person to fulfill a need as easy as turning a faucet like this to get some hot water going is really her creating misery in her own life, right? So, how many of us are doing things without even realizing it? And we're hoping that other people are going to basically come to our rescue. So, when I look at these things, I think about the physical world and the emotional world. So in the physical world, we've got it all figured out, right? If we are somewhere and it's cold, we go get us a jacket, no big deal. We put the jacket on. If we're somewhere and we're hungry, we get something to eat, not a big deal. We've got that all figured out. We don't sit there and just wait for someone to bring us food or wait for someone to bring us a jacket. We take care of that ourselves. Because of the way that our world is, our parents taught us, if you're hungry, go get something to eat. If you're cold, put a jacket on, right? So we know what to do, but we don't know how to handle our emotions. And because we just sat and waited for our parents to give us that, it made it very challenging when we didn't receive or get our needs met. And so we took that primary relationship and applied all the junk from it onto our current primary relationship. Unfortunately, for both men and women, it's a very, very tough thing. So I wanted to kind of just bring to home that emotional self-care is the same as physical, regular self-care, only we do it for ourselves, right? By doing this for ourselves, there's so much less disappointment, so much less frustration, and so much more emotional pain. And there's a whole lot more of happiness and fulfillment because it's like, think about if you're hungry and you get something to eat. Does it matter how you got it? Does it matter that you went and got it yourself? No, you're satiated, you feel great. You cold, you put your jacket on, you feel great. I didn't have to have that person get the jacket for me. But we do this with our love interest, right? Okay. So, there's a lot of self-help books out there, like tons and tons of them. And there's a lot of therapists out there, tons and tons, right? And they're helping us out. But if you're like me, I need a process. I need a step-by-step type of a process to say, what's happening? How do I do it? What's my next step? Because if I don't have that, I'm really challenged. Meditation, very, very hard for me because I don't know how to quiet my brain and nobody can give me a process as of yet. I'm sure there is some out there. But what I was able to do is just going through the process of learning certain things. It just makes it so much easier to be able to go, okay, I know I did this step, and this step. This is my next step. And by doing that, my brain has gotten so used to it. I just kind of fly through the steps very, very quickly. And it takes a minute, right? You got to practice it and get it all stuck up in the brain, in the memory centers, but it works so well. So let's talk about the relationship that we have with ourselves. That is the most important connection or relationship we'll ever have. But we often forget to nurture ourselves with it. We forget to nurture our own personal relationship. So I'm here to say, let's change all of this. Let's find ways. And I'm happy to share the skills and stuff that we have. But it's like, let's find the ways that will help us be able to sustain our own happiness rather than waiting desperately for someone else to come and do it. Okay, So we all are pretty familiar with that self-care list, right? Go get a massage, take a relaxing bath. Don't do it like Wanda. It was a good ending to the story. I'll finish it up here in a minute. But don't do it like Wanda in the beginning. You can do it like Wanda now. But practicing skincare rituals or drinking some herbal tea, going in nature, these things we do, they're very like kind of physical and there's for our self-care, exercise, whatever. But the emotional self-care is the part that is so severely neglected. So I'm talking about, how do you think about yourself? How do you talk to yourself? How well do you accept yourself? Right? So I've come to the point, and I would love for you to be able to come to the point where when I know that if I screw something up, it's an opportunity for me to see, where did I go wrong? What happened? And by seeing this thing, I can go, oh, yeah, I want to do that, or no, I don't want to do that. And then I can make a choice. That's the beauty. I have so many choices now because I feel so comfortable in my own emotional self-care. Okay, so that brings us to number 2, which is changing the way we think about ourselves. So I know that a lot of women that come to me talk about how chastising they are to themselves. And it's like, accidentally knock over a glass of milk and you're like just tearing yourself a new one. Like, what is wrong with you? God, you're so stupid. Pay attention to what you're doing, or you forget something somewhere, you're just like, oh my God, why can't I remember anything? We're just like down on ourselves. And I call it personal abuse. We are literally abusing ourselves and we don't need to do that. So what can you do about this, right? So we can start paying attention and identifying anything that I would call a limiting belief. We challenge our beliefs. If we have something going on and we're like, "Burp, burp, 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 burp," and you can hear ourselves to say, is this really how I want to speak to myself? Why? Let me find a way to speak in a way that's closer to how I might say it to a loved one, somebody I care about, or as I like to say, something closer to love, right? Instead of this very hostile energy. Another thing, so that's like self-observation, observing what it is we do. Now, of course, we observe what everybody else does, but do we observe what we do? Most people do not. Most people, and it's not your fault. It's not our fault. We are raised in a society, a culture that says, look out there and point your finger and see where they're bad and wrong. And part of that's how the brain works, but we've just gone way far over that edge. We can bring it back in. We can rail it back in. Is it easy? No, it's not easy, but it's definitely doable. And it's definitely beneficial. And the less I blame other people for whatever it is I'm feeling, I would literally say the happier I am. And sometimes it's hard to let go of those things, but the more I can let things go, and I don't mean just let them go, I mean work through the process. And I love the process. I would call it a discovery sheet, and I'm going to tell you more about that later. So, self-observation helps us see, what am I observing about myself? And to say, what am I feeling right this minute? Am I feeling like unlovable or undeserving? Do I feel unworthy? And I'm here to tell you that feeling worthy is not, even though we think we're going to get it from other people to give to us, like, oh, you're so wonderful. Even if they tell it to us, we're not going to believe them. I mean, we might believe them for a moment, that we feel really good that they said that, but then, we're down again until somebody else says it and then we're up again. It's not a great way to live. We literally can grow our own self-worth. We can expand it, develop it. And we do this by where we are on the inside and doing it on our own. We do not need another person to do this for us. You may need some information or some knowledge about how, again, there's a process, how to go about growing your own self-worth. But until we actually grow our own self-worth, we're not really going to feel worthy. Not in general, like just a genuine worthiness. We're waiting for other people to tell us we're worthy. And that just lasts for a little bit of time. And then that goes away till the next person does it. But what if the next person doesn't do it? We can do it ourselves. We could do it ourselves. Okay, so that's me talking about point number 3, which is the way we treat ourselves. So we talked about what we say to ourselves, how do we say it, to use words that encourage us, uplift us, instead of the rude and mean and ugly way of speaking. Um, Comparing ourselves. So how do I treat myself? Do I compare myself to other people, especially if I'm like on social media or something like that? Like, oh, that couple looks so happy together. I feel so sad for myself. I don't have a somebody. But I now can step back and go, you know what? I only want a special somebody if they're the right person for me and not just anybody. And that's a really big change for me. I wasn't always like that. It used to be I just wanted somebody to fill the slot. And then I would get mad at them when they weren't the right person. It's like, oh my God, I was a terrible partner, terrible partner. I don't know how these guys stood me. I was not a good partner. Anyway, so let me get back to here. Okay. So I like to say, if we're going to compare, only compare ourselves to ourselves, right? Like you do in golf. Is my golf game better this time than it was last time, right? Okay, so do you feel that it's possible that you could begin to treat yourself with more kindness and patience? Maybe. Why don't you try it, right? If you heard negative self-talk, oh, you're so stupid or whatever, is it possible that you can go, oh, I'm hearing it. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear something more like love, like knocked over the milk. Oh man, you're so stupid. You knocked the milk over. It's like, oh, that's not a nice way to say that. How can I say that better? Maybe I could say, oh, I knocked the milk over. That's a bummer. I'm probably going to be a minute late, but that's all right. I'm going to do it. And then just clean it up. And it's like, that's practicing patience with yourself. You don't mean to knock the milk over or whatever the situation is, right? It just happens sometimes. So this is a way for us to speak differently to ourselves. And just to know that we are, every single one of us, worthy of love and respect exactly as we are, where we are. To embrace ourselves with all our uniqueness, our oddities, right? All our peculiarities is kind of what makes us us, right? So this is going to be a little bit weird, but when I think of, I'm going to use Cher as my example. I used to think that she was just the cutest, most adorable thing ever. But apparently she did not like how her 2 front teeth were a little bit pushed back and then the 2 side teeth kind of poked out a little. I thought that made her adorable. And then when she got them fixed and she got her little implants or whatever it is she did, I was like, it's not the same. I don't know. It ruined my image of who I saw her as. Not in a bad way, of course. You know, she can do whatever she wants to do. But why do we do that? Why do we feel that need to, I don't know. Who are we doing it for? I think if we literally are doing it just for ourselves, go for it. But if we're doing it because we think somebody might like us more or somebody might want to be our friend or we think it's going to get us in good standing with this group of people, I don't know. I personally would challenge that and say, is that really true? Is that really true? So, I mean, is it really going to happen? Like if you, let's just say I got my teeth capped and all white because I have tetracycline stains, right? Do the best I can. Just do the best I can. Very painful for me to go get the bleaching, very painful. So I do the best I can. And it's like, if I thought making my teeth white and going through all that pain would make that group of people accept me, there was a time I would have done that. Now I wonder why I would want to be part of a group that I had to look a particular way like that for them to accept me. So there's ways to grow your love for yourself, your self-esteem, your self-worth, your deservingness, if that's a word. Yeah, there's a way to do that. And so I wanted to talk to you guys just this last little bit about, I have a little guidebook. It's complimentary. It's on my website. You can go get it. It's Debbie's Freebies. So no apostrophe, just debbiesfreebies.com. And it's in the top row. The top row is the freebie stuff. the other stuff, there's a couple resources. But on Thursday, whoever wants to participate can come with at least the sheet of paper, and we'll go through all the questions. There's like 7 self-discovery questions to help you learn how to process. It's to help you go through the steps so that you understand how to move from one to the next one to the next one. It's that logical step-by-step process that I'm talking about, which I just absolutely love. So if you are wanting, you're still welcome to come to the Women's Self-Mastery community with or without that piece of paper. I can certainly have it for you. But join me there on Thursday, and it'll be at 11 o'clock Central, which is noon Eastern, and we will go through that. And as always, if you know somebody that needs this information, please share the video, invite them, women, females only, into the Women's Self-Mastery community. And especially if they need some kind of emotional self-care, self-love, share the video, invite them. Until next time, I'm Debbie Pearson, helping you become more awesome on the inside. See you next time.